The CMHC report that just came out, that was reported in the Financial Post, Yahoo Finance, and likely will be covered by most national news outlets by the end of the day, regarding whether or not it's a good idea to impose a national property tax on homes over $1 million. So basically, CMHC spent some time and money, obviously, studying the implications of that. And I found that it was really interesting because in December, I had said, if I was Justin Trudeau, that's probably where I would be looking next. And I felt that, just with what I know about the current government, that would be where I thought their next policy decision would be. And most people were like, people who are a lot smarter than me were like, no way, it'll never happen. And I thought we would either see a national property tax, which is what is being studied in the CMHC study, or we would see a national land transfer tax. Because I felt that the government in some way would want to monetize the massive growth that we've seen in home prices. And it turns out I was right. Fortunately, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm wrong pretty often too. But on this one, it doesn't matter so much whether or not I'm right. It matters what this means for the Canadian housing economy. Now, if you're from Ontario, and especially the GTA, you're going to look at the idea of a tax and think, oh, this is probably going to have as much of a blowback as the non-resident speculation tax, which was a 2017 tax that basically reduced the buying power of foreign investors by 15%. So it taxed them 15% on the purchase of their property. That's a direct reduction in buying power. So there would be a quantifiable impact in the market. You'd see the demand get suppressed by that amount. And especially because this tax targeted a very specific group of buyers, and they were at that point in time the most prominent or most dominant buyers, prices dropped about 20 to 40% across the board in the GTA. Newmarket, I think, was somewhere between 30 and 40%. Crazy reductions in average price from about April 2017 to August 2018, let's say. Then we started the rebound that we're currently on, which is a crazy one. But what I think that this tells a story of, more than anything, is that the government is demonstrating that they have no issue when it comes to going after homeowner equity, and that we might ultimately be seeing and understanding what the end game is here of why the government at all levels, municipal, federal, and provincial, why they would want to see house prices inflate so much. And now all of a sudden you have let's say 90% of houses in the Greater Toronto area are worth over $1 million. And just coincidentally, this tax proposes putting a surtax or an annual holding tax on all of these properties. And owning $1 million home isn't a massive luxury in Canada anymore. I don't know many people who are going to look at that and say, oh yeah, that's no problem. I'm happy to pay a couple extra $1,000 a year on my property because I own $1 million home. Which is why, and this is really interesting, CMHC in the study proposed that there would be a deferral until a sale that would be available for people who didn't want to pay the tax annually. So already we're seeing, number one, the government indicating their willingness to monetize untapped equity of homeowners. And number two, they're going to the first and the lowest hanging fruit in the economy, which is, from my perspective, the basis of our economy, housing, to start paying for this massive expenditure that was the COVID and a global pandemic response, $600 billion or something. And now we have something like a $3 trillion debt in Canada. And so I think that from an economic perspective, I try not to weigh in too much on the politics of the monetary policy and pandemic response, helicopter money, etc. I think that most people actually have pretty similar views on whether or not those are good things. Even if it's like facetious or cynical or whatever it is, most people kind of have like this meme joking perspective towards it. But when I look at this tax study to me, the craziest part is that, number one, you need an MPAC assessment, a new assessment indicating that your property is worth over $1 million. Right now, assessments are coming in at like 50% of what houses are transacting for. So all of a sudden, you've got a national assessment, and assessments cost a ton of money for MPAC to do on an annual basis. So you need to figure out whose property is worth over $1 million, right? Not just based on sales, because not every house sells. And so how your house on your street sells, and now all of a sudden every single similar house on your street is probably worth the same amount of money. So you're going to have, to me, this is the most expensive way to possibly go about doing this. But the part that scares me the most is that they're going after untapped equity of homes rather than, I thought that the best place to do this, the most humane way to execute taxing this massive growth in real estate would be through a land transfer tax. And a land transfer tax would be because there's a quantifiable exchange in value. Money is changing hands, money is being created, value is being created, value is being exchanged, and all they need to do is pull from that. But in this case, they're actually proposing going after something that is, relatively qualitative or arbitrary of what that value is until it transacts. So it'd be interesting to watch and see. I would say that based on my judgment, that housing is really the low-hanging fruit, and that they're going to go after real estate to try and start paying for this pandemic response. I would anticipate seeing 5 or 10 more of these studies, and likely one of them being a national land transfer tax, and then other things coming out, such as taxes on capital gains. This is the start of that slippery slope of how much can we possibly tax housing, because it is where all of the value in our economy lies right now. Watch this one closely, honestly, and I'm going to keep trying to shed as much light on this as I can as this progresses.